Yesterday, Dana White went on the NFL's Paramount Plus broadcast and announced the debut UFC fight card on Paramount Plus, UFC 324, Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett for an interim lightweight title, which is an absolute disgrace. It is a complete and utter disgrace, and the narrative needs to be that Dana White folded to Justin Gaethje's demand. That's what it needs to be. Justin Gaethje said, I will retire if you do not give me a title fight. And Dana White caved to one fight win streak Justin Gaethje. That's exactly what he did. But we have a lot to break down because he announced the full card for UFC 324, which the full card in and of itself is actually decent. Just the main event being for an interim title is a complete and utter disgrace. We're going to discuss Ilia Topuria, who, by the way, should be stripped of his lightweight title. But we're going to break that down in this video because if you don't agree with it right now, I think by the end of this video, you might agree with it because there's a video that came out of Ilia Topuria today that I'm going to show you later. And you might be like, you know what, Joey, you're right. Strip him of the title. So we'll break that all down. But that's not all they announced, okay? Because they also announced UFC 325. For those of you who don't know, basically pay-per-views in America are going away. We'll still get regular numbered events. But now they will not be, they'll be on Paramount instead of actually having to pay $85 for them. And I guess that means the UFC doesn't give a rat's ass what they put together anymore, because UFC 325 is going to be a week after UFC 324. And guess what the main event is, boys? It's this. It's this. Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes 2. I don't even know what to say anymore. I honestly hate the sport at this point. It's disgraceful matchup after disgraceful matchup after disgraceful matchup. And essentially, it's the UFC picking who they believe is the most promotable, who they think can make them the most money. And then they give them undeserved title shot after undeserved title shot in hopes that they might fluke a title win. And then they can protect them during their title reign. That is essentially business as usual for the UFC. I think they've taken it too far. And I think we need to push back. I think we need to revolt because this right here is really bad. Diego Lopes beats a guy outside of the top 10 after getting 49-46 by Volkanovski. There's two other guys more deserving, both undefeated, beat way better guys. And now Diego Lopes is getting another title shot. But we'll break it all down in this video. We're going to check out some fighter reaction as well. We're going to see what Arman had to say. We're going to see what Movsar had to say. We're going to see what Lerone had to say. We're going to see what Diego Lopes had to say. And also, we're really going to brutally expose Ilia Topuria for ducking Arman Tsarukyan because that is exactly what he's doing. And that's why I tweeted out this. Dana White officially announces what we already knew. UFC 324 is an embarrassment and the sport is dead. Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett for an interim lightweight title is a complete disgrace. Arman Tsarukyan is officially the uncrowned champion. That's facts. Arman Tsarukyan is your uncrowned lightweight champion. And in the featherweight division, Movsar Evloev is your uncrowned featherweight champion. And nobody's going to convince me otherwise. But what other fights did we get? We got Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes for the women's bantamweight title, which, by the way, I don't love this as a main event for Paramount Plus, but if this is going to be on the card, the biggest women's title fight of all time, it probably should headline over Gaethje versus Pimblett for a fake-ass WWE interim lightweight title. It probably should headline over top of it. Then you have Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong, which I actually like. You have Waldo Cortes-Acousta versus Derrick Lewis, which is an absolute banger. Waldo Cortes-Acousta is the BMF. You have Arnold Allen versus Gene Silva, which is also very good. But my favorite thing about this graphic, my favorite thing about UFC 324, which goes down January 24th, 2026, look at this. Oh my good. 9 p.m. Eastern time for the main card start time. If you've been watching for a while, they tested this out around UFC 140, UFC 141. They moved pay-per-views back to 9 p.m. main card start times. And then for some reason, they switched back. I love those times. I love the cards starting a little bit earlier. This is ideal for me. 8 or 9 p.m. Eastern start times for main cards for numbered events, formerly pay-per-views. I think that's great news. Now, obviously, we only have to pay for a Paramount Plus subscription, at least in the United States now, which I also think is great news. But I told you guys it was too good to be true. They got their $7.7 billion from Paramount, partially due to political pressure and political friendships of Dana White's. And now I just think they're going to spoon feed us dog shit because they don't care anymore. They don't have to sell pay-per-views. They're just trying to get fan favorites in a position to hold fraudulent UFC championship belts. That is their entire goal. Now, where did this all start? Because this was all rumored long before Dana White's announcement. By the way, just quickly on Dana White's actual announcement, it was actually kind of an embarrassment. Dana White got 5 seconds on the Paramount Plus broadcast. It was obviously all pre-recorded. They just threw up this graphic and they rushed him off the screen as quickly as possible. And then afterwards, he had to announce a bunch of other fights. Couldn't even announce it all. Couldn't even announce it all because they didn't want him on the broadcast, hogging up valuable airtime. Okay? So the announcement in of itself, okay, is it cool? It was during Thanksgiving. It was during, the Thanksgiving game and there was crazy ratings and everything. But yeah, it kind of felt like an afterthought. It kind of felt like Dana White was at a party they didn't want him at. Maybe I'm the only person feeling that, but that's what it felt like. But where did it all start? Because there was rumors yesterday of basically this entire card. And one of the main things that happened earlier yesterday was Ilia Topuria tweeting out this. I won't be fighting in the first quarter of next year. I'm going through a difficult moment in my personal life. I want to focus on my children and resolve this situation as soon as possible. I don't want to hold up the division. The UFC will make the matchups needed, and as soon as the matters are resolved, I'll let the UFC know I'm ready to begin my return. Whoo, boys, there's a lot. There's so much. If you've seen the amount of information I have loaded up here, I have like 30 tabs loaded up. We have a lot to get to. Strip Ilia Topuria. I'll just get it right out of the way. I'll rip the Band-Aid off. I'm going to expose Ilia Topuria later in this video, which could be its own dedicated video. But I do feel for him. He's going through allegedly a divorce. There's some speculation about a custody battle. There's some speculation about potential charges. That's all speculation at this point. But I'm going through a difficult moment in my personal life. He can't fight for a year because he's going through a rough patch with his wife. Think about all the ordinary day-to-day people. You think they just call out of work for a fucking year because, they might be getting divorced? They're going through a rough patch? Imagine if Ian Machado Gary won the welterweight title and said, hey guys, look, I know you guys want me to defend, but me and the wifey, I'm going through a little bit of a heartbreak right now. I'm going through a little bit of a heartbreak. I'm going to have to sit out for a while, create an interim belt while I sit on my ass. While I sit on I can't wait to show you the video later of Ilia today. Or Ilia within the last couple days. Because if you don't think Ilia should be stripped now, you're like, oh, no, Ilia. No, he's has some sympathy. He's going through some stuff. He show up for work. What other job do you get to just not show up for work for a year because you're having emotional issues with your wife? Did Arman steal your bitch? Is that what happened here? So I'll just get it right out of the way. I think Topuria should be stripped of the belt, but we'll talk about that more later. Okay, so let's get to the actual fights. This is the UFC 324 card, the graphic courtesy of Homa Fight. We have Gaethje versus Pimblett for the interim lightweight title. I actually like this fight, but interim lightweight title is a complete and utter disgrace, bogus WWE title. I think most would agree. Then we have Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes for the women's bantamweight title. Then we have Song Yadong versus Sean O'Malley in the bantamweight division. Then we have Umar Nurmagomedov versus Davison Figueiredo in the bantamweight division. Then we have Arnold Allen versus Jean Silva in the UFC featherweight division as well. Then we have Grasso versus Namajunas and Derrick Lewis versus Waldo Cortes-Acousta. So we'll go through these fights really quickly, kind of one by one. We'll start with these graphics right here. Waldo Cortes-Acousta versus Derrick Lewis. Heavyweight fight. Love this matchup. Waldo Cortes-Acousta is the BMF. He is undoubtedly the BMF. He still wants to fight on December 13th, I believe it is, which will make it 6 fights this year. I mean, this dude just keeps embarrassing Tom Aspinall over and over and over again. Because now, even if he doesn't fight before the end of 2025, he's fighting first thing in 2026 against Derrick Lewis. And my early prediction for this fight, I think Waldo Cortes-Acousta is going to beat Derrick Lewis, probably chin Derrick Lewis. Waldo Cortes-Acousta, I've been a believer in him for a bit, and he's very hard to hit. And I get Derrick Lewis has that one-hitter quitter, But man, I think Waldo Cortes-Acousta is faster, and I think he's really elusive. And I think Derrick Lewis does not give a fuck. He shows up for a paycheck. I think Waldo Cortes-Acousta is going to get it done. But that's not what we're here really to talk about. We have a lot to go through. So we're going to go through them really quickly, one by one, the fights that don't matter as much. We also have Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong. I like this fight. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it's a competitive fight. I think they picked O'Malley a matchup that they think he can win. And then I think, the UFC thinks it'll get O'Malley back into contention. Since now he's gotten 2 undeserved title shots, they're trying to get him a third undisputed title fight that would be undeserved, is what I meant to say. And I think that's why they booked him against Song Yadong. Song Yadong's no easy task. I understand, I didn't mean to change that. I understand that a lot of people are high on O'Malley and he's a sniper, man. It just breathes, Shug. I think Song may whoop his fucking ass. I may change my mind when we get around to it. But I think Song may chop that little brittle leg of O'Malley. And Song's not easy to hit, man. Song was starting to work over Corey Sandhagen a bit before he got stopped due to that cut from an elbow. So I don't think this is an easy matchup for O'Malley. I think they picked O'Malley a favorable matchup so he could win potentially and then get right back into the mix. And honestly, the sad reality is UFC 313, if somehow Petr Yan beats Merab's fucked. He's not getting an immediate rematch, even though he should. And O'Malley beats Song on UFC 324, there is no doubt in my mind that they would give Sean O'Malley another fight because they're only trying to cater to the casuals. That's all they're trying to do. Now I'm going to jump to another tab real quick because we also have Umar Nurmagomedov versus Deiveson Figueiredo. Love this fight. Great matchmaking. So many crybabies saying Umar shouldn't get another title fight. He was undefeated, lost a razor-close decision against the GOAT of the weight class. Then he went out there and beat the dark horse of the division in Mario Batista and really dominated him. And a lot of people were saying, oh, he doesn't deserve another title fight, which I kind of get, 1 fight, 1 streak. Well, now he's going to go out there and beat Figgy, and I think those same people are going to cry those same sour grapes and say, oh, no. No. He shouldn't get a title fight. He only beat Figgy, even though these people were campaigning for Figgy to get a title fight not that long ago. So I love this matchup. I love that Umar's staying active. If Umar beats Deiveson Figueiredo, he is undeniable for the next title shot. Unless Merab loses to Petr Yan, then Merab deserves an immediate rematch. But this is a really good fight. I just don't think Figgy has much of a chance. Figgy's kind of towards the twilight of his career. He's getting close to 40 years old. I think that Umar's just better everywhere. Umar, I know people see the last name, they're like, oh, he's a grappler. And I know his grappling is really good and really solid. His striking is nasty. His kicking game is nasty. Figgy has no respect for his opponent's striking, and that leads to him getting touched up on the feet. And I think Umar can take him down. The only way Figgy wins this is a Hail Mary sub. Umar shoots in on a takedown, gets guillotined. I don't think that's likely to happen, but I actually think this is good matchmaking. So of all the fights on this card, I mean, the card's rather deep. We just have a main event that's kind of shitty, and that's where we're going to jump back to the co-main event, which is Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes. This is the best women's title fight in a while. It really is. Now, is there going to be some weight cutting issues? I feel like there's going to end up being some type of weird shit going on with this fight. But the return of the women's GOAT, essentially, versus Kayla Harrison, this is kind of like the super fight that people wanted to see for a while. I don't know where Nunes is at. She's been gone for a while. But I just can't help but think of Kayla Harrison versus, I believe it was Ketlin Vieira. Looked very unimpressive. I think the weight cut really drains her a lot. This is at bantamweight. I don't know if Nunes is going to have trouble cutting weight after being out for a while. But overall, love this fight. Should it be a main event of Paramount? Probably not, but it should main event over what the actual main event is. Paddy Pimblett versus Justin Gaethje for the interim title fight. But I think this is a great women's fight. Women's MMA has kind of took a dive in the last couple of years because Dana White and UFC refuses to develop talent. But this is actually a high-level fight. I mean, Kayla Harrison, nasty grappling, nasty judo, nasty wrestling, good ground and pound, good submission ability. Amanda Nunes is hard to take down. Amanda Nunes has nasty striking. I think Nunes is going to whoop Kayla Harrison's ass unless Nunes has just been sitting on the couch this entire time and is just showing up for a paycheck. I really have no doubts that Amanda Nunes wins this fight. Now let's get to the main event because that's what you guys actually want to hear about. By the way, if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and like the video. We have Paddy Pimblett versus Justin Gaethje for the interim lightweight title. Man, this is the main event. This is the fakest belt I've ever seen. The narrative is Dana White folded to Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje said, I want a title fight or I'm retiring. I'm on a 1-fight win streak against a short notice Rafael Fiziev. And if I don't get my title fight, I'm retiring. I'm hitting the road. And Dana White, bald Mr. Krabs, folded to Justin Gaethje's pressure. And now he's fighting Paddy Pimblett for the title. This is actually a decent fight. This is the fight that should have been made, but no title on the line. Absolutely no title on the line. Pimblett could have fought Gaethje, and if he beat Gaethje, he could have fought the winner of Topuria Arman. But instead, the UFC is doing two things at once here. They're protecting Paddy Pimblett. They're caving to Justin Gaethje, his entitled little bitch ass. And they're protecting Ilia Topuria as well. And we're going to expose it in this video. It's just sad. It really is sad, guys. I don't know I don't even know what to say anymore. I really don't. It's just like, what are we even doing? Truly, what are we doing here? I don't know what we are doing here, because how is Arman just whooped Dan Hooker? Arman was already the undeniable number one contender, but oh, well, he got injured against Islam, so he's not the number one contender anymore. Well, he weighed in as a backup for Charles versus Topuria, and then he fought Dan Hooker as soon as possible and whooped Dan Hooker like a dog, a top 5 guy. Who has Paddy Pimblett beat? And I've been a believer in Paddy Pimblett to a certain extent. He beat bummy-ass Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler's last win is 150 fucking years ago against an 80-year-old Tony Ferguson, the dead body of Tony Ferguson. It's just insane to me. Like, how is this? How is this a title fight? I mean, has it ever been more clear of a title fight where the best in the division is not in a title fight? It's just crazy to me. I mean, look at Arman. 23-3, in my opinion, has never actually lost in the UFC. Because his one loss is against Mateusz Gamrot. He clearly won that fight. That was basically a robbery. There was a round that was scored for Gamrot where Arman dropped him and clearly won that round. It's just insane to me. But look, he beat Dan Hooker, who was ranked decently high, I believe top 5 in the lightweight rankings. Before that, he beat Charles Oliveira, who Charles Oliveira then went on to beat Michael Chandler and get a title fight against Topuria. He beat Beneil Dariush, who was in the top 5 at the time, I believe. Okay, Joaquim Silva, not that good. Demirs Magulov, not that good, but not horrible opponents. He's on this crazy long win streak, arguably undefeated in the UFC. Or not undefeated in the UFC, sorry. Undefeated outside of the loss to Islam Makhachev on short notice, because you don't really count that. He jumped in short notice against Islam Makhachev, but you guys get what I'm saying. Okay? His one loss, his one real true loss is short notice against Islam in 2019. Since then has been on a tear. And he's beaten legit opposition. He is truly the number one contender. And if you want to say, well, he got injured and he pulled out of the fight and Nina drama and this and that, blah, blah, blah. What? That's all forgotten. He destroyed Dan Hooker. He destroyed Dan Hooker. He paid his debt for being injured. People act like, oh, he missed weight because Dana White said so. I don't believe Dana White for one fucking second. Arman, there's no way he would have pulled out of that fight unless he thought he was too compromised to go into that fight and win that fight. And now he wins a fight against Dan Hooker. He says he's ready to return in January against Topuria. And instead we get this dog shit because Topuria is going through a heartbreak with his wife. What a fucking joke. And to cave to Justin Gaethje's little entitled ass who said, I'm going to retire, man. I'm going to retire. This dude got knocked out cold at UFC 300 2 fights ago. He's won 1 fight since then. 1 fight since then. And we're going to give him a title fight. This should have been, if Topuria couldn't go, this should have been Arman versus Paddy. That's what it should have been. It should have been Arman versus Paddy. That's what it should have been. I mean, it's just a complete disgrace that they can't book Arman versus Paddy because they're protecting Paddy and they're protecting Topuria from having to fight Arman because the UFC wants Topuria versus Paddy. They want that at all costs. So if Arman goes out there and whoops Topuria, or Arman goes out there and whoops Paddy, then you're never getting Topuria versus Paddy, which is the big money fight. And the UFC wants one of those guys as champion. So now, I don't have the clip in front of me. Afterwards on Instagram Live, when Dana White was announcing other fights, he said, yeah, the winner of this fight, Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett, will fight Topuria in spring or summer. So we have the true number one contender Let's take a look at the rankings. We have the true number one contender here in Arman Tsarukyan, undeniable, best in the world, one of the best in the world right now. Undeniable, deserving of a title fight. He has to now sit out for another year. He has to sit out for another year. This is what we're doing? What are we doing here? What are we doing? He's going to have to sit out till late 2026 at best. It may be till 2027 because Topuria may fight Paddy in the summer of 2026 and then say, oh yeah, I'm going through a little rough patch again. You know, he fought once last year. And it's just crazy to me. Where's all the criticism for Topuria? I know there's some. I'm not going to act like there's none. But people cried when Khamzat, his manager, came out and said he won't be fighting till March or April. By the way, that was the UFC's decision making. I told you guys that, a week or two ago. Where was he going to fit in? Where was Khamzat fitting in? January was already taken. February was already taken. Oh, Khamzat's going to fight in March or April. So where was he going to fit in there? There was nowhere else for him to fit in. But this is what we're getting, boys. This is truly what we're getting. I mean, this is just a complete and utter disgrace of a fight. And we're going to come back to this because we're going to see what Arman had to say. We're going to expose Topuria. But I want to jump over to UFC 325. This will be a week after UFC 324. And, well, that's not it. And honestly, I think this may be worse. So we're getting back-to-back numbered events. And we're getting Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes. What a fucking disgrace to the sport this is. Diego Lopes is an industry plant. Let's look at Diego Lopes. Oh, he's got one win over Jean Silva. Not even a top 10 guy. Since he got 49-46 by Volkanovski. And he's getting a title fight. It's just crazy to me. I mean, look at the rankings first off. Let's pull up the rankings. The rankings mean nothing. Movsar Evloev is number one. Movsar Evloev has a way better resume than Diego Lopes. He's 19-0. Look at the names that he's beaten. He's beaten Aljamain Sterling. He's beaten Arnold Allen. He's dominated Diego Lopes, the guy who's gotten 2 title fights since then. He beat Dan Ige, dominated Dan Ige. By the way, Diego Lopes went life and death with Dan Ige on 24 hours notice, less than 24 hours notice. Look at these wins. These 4 wins are better than Diego Lopes' entire UFC career. And I get Diego Lopes is fun. I get that he's fun to watch. I get that he's dangerous. He just got 49-46 by Volkanovski. And now we're going to give him a title fight? Like, what are we even doing? Truly, what is this? What is this? Someone tell me. This is the death of the sport. We're just giving quote-unquote fan favorites title fights until they fucking win. That's what this is. Like, oh, maybe Volkanovski, he's a year older. Maybe Lopez will go out there and chin him, and Lopez represents Mexico. Lopez represents Brazil. We want that demographic. We don't want a Movsar Evloev. Arman Tsarukyan isn't allowed to fight for a title because they're protecting Paddy. They're protecting Topuria. And also, like, you know what? Arman's hanging out with too many Muslims. Arman's from the Caucasus region. We don't need more Caucasus region fighters as champions. That's the sad reality. The UFC is matchmaking based on the region of the world these fighters are from and whether or not they deem them as promotable. They want to try to corner that Mexican market. And that's why they're giving Diego Lopes a title fight. Because how are you not going to give Movsar a title fight? 19-0. But even so, Lerone Murphy's more deserving as well. 17-0. He stepped in on short notice and chinned Aaron Pico with a spinning back elbow. On short notice. Aaron Pico was the guy they were going to try to give a title shot to. Beat Josh Emmett before that. Dominated Dan Ige before that. Beat Edson Barboza before that. So, where's this? You know, people always say, oh, there's the Dagestani privilege. There's the Caucasus region privilege. There's the Muslim privilege. Lerone Murphy, 17-0 Muslim. Okay? Movsar Evloev, 19-0 Muslim from the Caucasus region. And then you can chuck in Arman Tsarukyan as well. He's from the Caucasus region. He's not Muslim. 23-3. Only real loss in the UFC is the Islam Makhachev, the pound for pound number one, and arguably the go to the sport. And none of these fucking guys can get a title fight? Because instead, we got to pray that Lopez can fluke a win over Volk. That's what they're praying for. They're like, oh, Volkanovski, he sat out for a year. He's on ice for a year. And let's see if Lopez can beat him this time around after getting 49-46 prior. That's what they're hoping for, and sadly, I think that may happen. Right now, early prediction is Lopez. I just feel like the UFC is going to get what they want. Volkanovski, I told you guys, we have to appreciate these guys while they're in their special moment in time. I don't think Volkanovski's in that special moment anymore. He's getting older. He's getting slower. And I think he's going to get chinned by Lopez probably. I think Volk's the far superior fighter, but that doesn't matter if he gets cracked on the chin and put to sleep because he's old and slow. That's the sad reality. I hope Volk goes out there and spoils the party, but I just don't see it happening, man. I really don't. I just think another year, inactivity a bit. Oh, Diego Lopez beat Gene Silva. Who's Gene Silva ever beat? Oh, he beat Bryce Mitchell. So beating Diego Lopez beating Gene Silva is worthy of a second fucking title fight? What a disgrace this is. It truly is a disgrace. And this really comes back to the UFC picking and choosing champions. Okay? They want to pick and choose champions based on who they deem as promotable, and it's killing the fucking sport. Because if you think about it right now, they have a lot of guys who appeal to that Middle Eastern Caucasus region of the world, and they're like, Mavsar, we don't want to risk Mavsar winning the title. No way we want that Mexican audience. This is horrible matchmaking, and it took a shit on any semblance of a meritocracy of the sport, and it makes me not want to watch the sport, considering you have back-to-back headliners of essentially dog shit fights. I mean, they're not dog shit fights, but you get my point. What is this? This is fake. Imagine if the Buccaneers won the NFC Championship, and like, you know what? The Buccaneers are the best, and they deserve to go to the Super Bowl, but instead we're going to send the Cowboys because the Cowboys are more popular. What a joke of a sport this is. And we're going to see what Volkanovski and his coach had to say. I'm going to include that in this video as well. Now let's look at this. This kind of backs up what I'm saying. Somebody tweeted out this. Shout out to the Fight Fanatic. If Arman Tsarukyan and Movsar Evloev both become champions, that would make it 6 Caucasus champions total out of 8 men's divisions in the UFC. Too many champs from one region is clearly making the board nervous. Arman and Movsar are paying for it. It's the reality of the situation. They don't want more Caucasus region fighters as champs. I've been telling you guys this. There is a discrimination against them because they want the Sean O'Malley's of the world. They want the Bo Nickel of the world. They want to promote these industry plants who can appeal to a certain audience because the UFC wants them to win a title. That's what they want. That's truly what they want. And this absolutely spits facts right here, okay? If this little dumb thing goes away. I don't know why it's there. I'm completely disgusted and at a loss for words. The UFC is not a sport. Essentially, they decide who they want as champion and feed them undeserved title shots until they win, then protect them during their championship reign. Rinse and repeat. Dana White should be fucking embarrassed. He really should be. And the fact that we're getting this the first 2 numbered events of 2026, it goes to show me they don't give a fuck anymore. They got that $7.7 billion. They do not care anymore. They just want to handpick guys who they think they can promote and they think will be popular, and they're hoping that they fluke a win. And then they'll protect them. Look at Sean O'Malley. They gave Sean O'Malley the most optimal circumstances against Aljamain Sterling. He got a win there, which I believe is a fluke. I think it's even more obvious that it was a fluke at this point, but fair enough, he won. And then what did they do? They said, oh, well, no, we're not going to give him the actual #1 contender, Merab Dvalishvili. We're going to let him fight Chito Vera, who just got a split decision over Pedro Munoz. This shit is an embarrassment. This shit is basically rigging fights from a promotional standpoint. That's what they're doing. And they're just hoping. I pray that Volkanovski wins this fight. I really do. And what's crazy is even Volkanovski called this out. Listen to this. Listen to this. Let me rewind this back.
There was a bit in it, a bit of work involved. Obviously, we all know that I wanted to fight earlier. I wanted, I thought it was going to be December,
By the way, he wanted to fight earlier. He wanted to fight in December. This goes to prove a point that I've been saying for a while. The UFC is a fly-by-night company that has no ability to plan. They hold fighters out for months on end instead of actually using them. And then later down the line, they hold them out for an extra 4 or 5 months. Then they get injured. Now they're out for a whole year. Volk wanted to fight in December. Why couldn't he fight in December against Murphy? Then you could have booked him for February again. If Volk would have won that fight, he would have fought in February.
We thought, Lerone Murphy, December, I guess UFC, and they were waiting for Jean Silva and Lopez. Then they were saying Lopez, and we're like, obviously we're like, we just fought that guy. Is there more deserving people, whatnot? But everybody knows that I'll fight anyone, right? So whoever they put in front of me, I'll do. But then it was looking like it wasn't going to happen. But then it did happen, which was great. Again, I thought, it was a Mobzar deserving, Lerone Murphy. I thought that was the 2 guys. They're the guys I called out.
Volk wanted to fight the more deserving contenders. And by the way, this is literally a slap in the face to Volk. If Volk beats Lopez again, what does that do for his legacy? It doesn't do anything. Imagine at the end of Volk's career, at the tail end of Volk's career, he is now 2-time featherweight champion, which he already is because he beat Diego for the vacant title. And then he takes out undefeated Lerone Murphy. He takes out undefeated Movsar Evloev. Instead, he beats industry plant Diego Lopez twice. It's actually shitting on Volkanovski's legacy, which I believe is undeniable at this point. But he could have had a much better win, and he wanted to fight the more deserving guys, and instead you're like, oh, we clearly want Lopez to beat you. We clearly want you to pass the torch to Lopez so we can appeal to the Mexican audience. If Diego Lopez wins this fight, don't be shocked if Yair Rodriguez gets an undeserved title shot afterwards. Don't be shocked. But at least Volkanovski admits that, look, I wanted the more deserving guys. They were way more deserving. Now let's look what Lerone Murphy had to say, because this is facts. Missing the opportunity to fight one of the featherweight goats is what hurts me the most. It's not about who's the best anymore. It's about who's the most popular. Sad reality. He's got no Instagram followers, man. He's got no Instagram. Lerone Murphy's undefeated, stepped up on short notice and spinning back elbowed KO'd Aaron Pico, who the UFC was hyping up and was going to give a title shot to. And now he doesn't get a title shot. He's undefeated. He doesn't get a title shot. Movsar doesn't get a title shot. Like, if Lerone got a title shot, like, it would have been kind of shitty for Movsar, but at least you could understand it. But now instead you're giving Diego Lopez, who beat Gene Silva, or not even in the top 10, Gene Silva. Just insane. And then he also says, it is what it is. Business is never personal. We dust off and move forward. And what's crazy is, it appears, and let me see if I can actually pull this up. For some reason, I don't know if I have it here. Yeah, here it is. Lerone Murphy, he says Leon Murphy. Apparently, if you're black and from the UK, everyone thinks you're Leon. Lerone Murphy, I will give you the opportunity to fight for the #1 contender. Tell your people you're ready to fight me on the same card as the championship. This is the real title fight. I hope they book Lerone versus Movsar on the same card as Volk versus Diego, because Movsar, in my opinion, is the uncrowned champ. He will be defending against Lerone Murphy, and I hope that it's 5 rounds. I truly hope that it's 5 rounds, because right now, we're just getting a sham of a featherweight title fight. Even Volkanovski's coach is disgusted by it. It was a shock. No disrespect to Diego, but we just beat him. Facts. Volk hasn't fought since he beat Diego, so he's fighting Diego twice in a row. Listen to this.
Mosvald and, Murphy, I think, on paper are probably more deserving of that title shot, but, we don't call the shots. That's up to the UFC, and they've given us Diego, so, that's the card they've given us, and that's the one we've got to play.
That's what it is. The other guys are more deserving, but it is what it is. And what really actually annoys me is this is what Diego Lopez said. My face when I saw everyone crying, sitting around, he won't give you a title fight. Get to work and stop whining on social media. Dude, you are an industry plant. You got 1 win since you got 49-46 by Volkanovski. They are praying that you win the title. You were Dana White's next little lapdog because you represent a market that he wants to corner. That is the reality of it. Oh, get to work, get to work, get to work. Dude, you got dominated. You literally got dominated by Movsar Evloev already. And since then, okay, you won a few fights. You got your title fight. Then you won 1 fight. You fought once since you got dominated by Volkanovski. And now you're getting a title fight and claiming, let's get to work. Let's get to work. It makes absolutely no sense. Actually really pissed me off. Really, truly pissed me off that he's like, get to work when he's won 1 fight. He's won 1 fight. Now let's get to Arman, because Arman posted this. Make it make sense. Yeah, I guess Arman hung out with too many Muslim fighters. He's from the Caucasus region. He's not going to get the title fight. And listen to Topuria here, because Arman also said, could it be any more obvious that El Pato is doing everything in his power to avoid fighting me? Listen to this, because this is what we have, man. We have Topuria doesn't want to fight Arman. Paddy doesn't want to fight Arman. And then we also have Volkanovski having to fight Diego Lopez. It's just industry plant central at this point. I just have to show this. I could have made a whole other video on this, but we're just going to go through it.
Pues tengo a Paddy en la mente.
I have Paddy on my mind. I'd like to fight Paddy if they don't move. If I don't move, don't let me move up to welterweight to fight Islam. Could it be any more clear? And then all of a sudden, you have Arman win against Dan Hooker. He's the clear #1 contender. And then he says he's ready for January, and instead they make Paddy versus Gaethje. It should have been Arman versus Paddy, but they're protecting Paddy for Ilia. That's the reality. Who asked for this? Who wanted this? I just don't know who wanted this, guys. Who truly wanted this? And I'm glad at least that Arman's calling it out. Make it make sense. It makes no sense. And there's some people trying to defend this. There's some people laughing at this. It makes absolutely no sense because Arman is your uncrowned champion. Arman is truly your uncrowned champion. And what's crazy is you have an Ilia Topuria who was begging for Paddy. Okay, then all of a sudden Arman becomes number one contender. All of a sudden now he's going through a rough patch. He can't fight anymore. And then you have his boy, Alvaro Comanero. Well, we said it because he already reported this. Arman Tsarukyan is out of the title picture for a short term. The UFC accepts Topuria's personal issues as grounds for creating an interim title for Gaethje and Paddy, and the winner will immediately unify with Ilia Topuria in the spring-summer. This is what Arman asked for. Or this is what Topuria asked for because he did not want to fight Arman, and the UFC agreed with him. They didn't want Arman beating Paddy and then Topuria having to fight Arman. That's what they didn't want. They didn't want it all, and they didn't want Paddy to lose to Arman because Topuria knows that Paddy is a much easier matchup than Arman. If you don't believe me, listen to this. Ilia Topuria warned the UFC a long time ago to avoid getting Paddy Pimblett cross paths with Arman Tsarukyan if they wanted to have him a shot at the belt. Let's just listen.
So if he wants to assure his title shot, he has to fight with Justin Gaethje, because if he fights with Arman, I think that Arman's going to beat him. So the easiest path he has right now to get the title shot is Justin.
Okay, thank you.
Stylistically.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. You heard it right from Arman's lips, or Topuria's lips. What are we doing, guys? What are we truly doing? At the end of the day, I get that this is a decent card, but for what? I mean, this main event is garbage. Why couldn't they just make this the co-main event, Harrison Nunes, the main event, and say Gaethje Pimblett is in line to fight the winner of Topuria Arman, which will happen in spring. Topuria Arman was right there. It was a badass fight. It was truly the best versus the best. We can't claim that anymore. We truly can't claim that anymore. We're just throwing together fights. They're just hoping Pimblett wins. By the way, I don't think I gave a prediction for Pimblett Gaethje. I don't know if I gave a prediction. I think Pimblett beats Gaethje easily. I think Gaethje's washed up and he has no jiu-jitsu. Pimblett's been underrated for a while. I feel like he's finally started to get rated higher. People were picking Chandler over him. But Gaethje has no jiu-jitsu. His wrestling isn't that good. People have overhyped it for years. I think Pimblett will beat the shit out of Gaethje. I think Pimblett will get the next title shot. Topuria will knock out Pimblett, most likely. And then Topuria will say, I want to go up to welterweight. And then duck Arman again. Duck Arman again. And he's going through such a rough patch that he can't fight. He can't fight, right? I'm going through a rough patch. I'm going through a difficult moment in your personal life. Strip him of the title. They should have made Arman versus Paddy for the undisputed title. And then when Topuria returns, he can fight back for his undisputed title. But no, he's going through a difficult moment. Well, let's look at that difficult moment. Let's take a live look at Topuria's difficult moment. This is posted today by his brother, by the way. Posted today. Yeah, he's going through a difficult patch. He can do this. He can do a million interviews, but he can't show up for work. He can't ever show up for work, and he'll be damned if he fights Arman because he knows Arman would beat the shit out of Paddy, but instead he's begging for Paddy, which I don't even know if I can pull that back up. Let me say, yeah. He wants Paddy, who he knows Arman would defeat, and then he's going to try to run off the welterweight. It's just crazy that the UFC allows this. It really is truly crazy that the UFC allows this. The sport is dying before our eyes. We have to reject this. We have to bitch about this. We have to revolt against this. Because we can't just accept this. We can't just accept this bullshit from the UFC. Gaethje Pimblett for an interim title is WWE. And then to top it all off, Volkanovski Diego 2? I get it, people like Lopez, but this is an embarrassment. Are you really even a champion if you don't earn your way to the title? It used to mean something to win the title because you had to earn your way there and then you had to beat the best in the world. But if you're just getting opportunity after opportunity to fluke a win over the champ, what does it really mean anymore? So I really do believe that the UFC got that money from Paramount and now they're just saying, okay, we can just put together whatever we want because we don't have to rely on any hardcores to buy pay-per-views anymore. We can just pander to casuals as much as physically possible. This is a joke of a sport. There is no meritocracy. These are two of the worst fucking title fights ever. It really is. I mean, why is this for an interim title? Why wouldn't you do Arman? Arman said he's ready to go. Because you don't want Paddy. The only reason you give Justin Gaethje, who's on a 1-fight win streak, got KO'd slumped by Max Holloway prior to that. The only reason he's in this fight is because he threatened to retire, but also because they believe Paddy Pimblett has a better chance to defeat him. They want Paddy to win this fight, and they're going to have Arman sit out to the end of 2026. And you know what some fans are going to say? You know what the UFC is going to say? Oh, well, he hasn't fought, man. He's been inactive. We're not going to give him a title fight. It's just crazy. But overall, I do actually kind of like the card. We didn't really talk about it. Grasso, Rose Namajunas, don't really give a rat's ass about that. Ateba Gutierrez, Andre Pulyayev is actually a banger. And then I'm trying to remember if they announced anything else for 325. No, they did not yet. Just the main event. So it is what it is, boys. This card is actually a decent card, but the main event is a disgrace. 324 and 325 have me absolutely hating the sport. I know people are going to call me a contrarian to a certain extent again, but this has become the WWE. It truly has become the WWE. Do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.